Hello and welcome to this Minecraft tutorial with me, Groover. Now today I have for you this villager breeder that you can see behind me. Basically you feed in a stack or however many stacks of food that you want in there, and each stack is going to give you 4 or 5 baby villagers with clean inventories down here, and basically they are ready to be transported wherever you want. Using this little system that I'm going to show you, when they grow up they're going to end up in this tube ready and just flow in into your trading hall wherever you want. I'll give this build, it's not a very complex build, but it's a little bit involved. There's a little bit of stuff to do which is a little bit of a pain, like placing glass panes, but at the same time it's pretty simple, and once you've got it, you've got all of the villagers that you could ever need without taking up all of the space, because this will just breed villagers as you wish. Let's have a quick look at this in action. Throw those up we go. They go up to the actual breeder up at the top. They end up in the breeder, and in a few seconds we're going to get babies flying down the tube and just queuing. Here we go. That is our first new villager. We should have another one coming in a couple of seconds. These will just keep going, so you could throw in say 5 or 6 stacks in there and you'll just get a continual flow of babies coming every few seconds. There we go, there comes another one. A nice controlled flow of villagers. I should say that this is based on a design which I saw by Old Guy, Hey Old Guy on YouTube. There's going to be a link below to the original design. He didn't do a block by block tutorial, but I kind of thought I'll do some adaptations, make it a little bit my own, and do something with that basic mechanic which he shows. So yeah, big shout out to Hey Old Guy. If you haven't seen his villager stuff, you really need to go see it. He's doing some awesome things out there. Right, let's go and have a look at the materials list for this breeder. Right, these are the materials that you're going to need. There is a lot of glass panes in this. It doesn't have to be glass panes, but something with this hitbox, like iron bars if you wished. You could use iron bars, but I would advise using glass panes because they're quite cheap comparatively speaking. Also, we've got a lot of stained glass in here. You don't need to use stained glass. I just like to use stained glass a lot because it's mob proof. It's simple, it's mob proof, and it's going to do everything you need for this build. Bit of redstone stuff. We need 3 villagers. 3 villagers are required for this, so I'm using 3 spawn eggs. And then we've got a stack and a half of ice. Now this is really about water. You need a fair bit of water. I would honestly advise having ice on hand because it's just easier to use, easier to travel with, and you don't have to go back and forth with buckets. And then you're going to have all of these beds here. What have we got? 13? 13 beds. It should be 13. Yeah, it's 13. Right, there we go, and let's get into the tutorial. Right, so first thing you need to do is decide where you're going to build this. Now, you're going to need at least 70, well, let's call it 80 blocks vertically, and you want to make sure that you don't have any of the villages around the place. This is just to make sure nothing gets linked up and broken. If things get linked up, I'm sorry, it's broken. You have to break all the beds and start again, pretty much. So, we're going to start off with a 7x7 area. So if we go here, right, so that should be a little 7x7 with a little hole at the front here. Now we're going to build that up by 2. And then at this level we're going to place in a couple of water sources. Now this is basically the baby catch tray. So the babies come over to here, and we're going to make sure that they get caught up in this little tube. Like that. Like that there. Water source there. And then we can run this off in this direction. Okay. So the idea is that basically the babies are going to come falling down from the top, bang, into this pool. They're going to bob round at the bottom here until they're fully grown. Once they're fully grown, they go up into this tube and then they go off in this direction. And for us, they're going to fall into the void, which is going to be a little bit sad for them. But nevertheless, we don't want overpopulation whilst we're doing this. Now next up is we're going to build a little sleeping pod here for our villager that's going to actually make sure that the village here is maintained. This guy needs nothing, just needs a bed We're going to fill in the corners to make sure that the game doesn't try and put him through the corners. And then we're going to put him in there. Now that is a village. This guy just needs to relax there. He's keeping the village. You might de-link occasionally, but it doesn't matter so much. So that's him. We can cover him in. Right, now that we've got this, we're going to build up the tube that the villagers, the baby villagers, are going to fall down. So we're just going to put down a temporary block right there. And then we're going to put some glass pane on there. And then we're going to build this up like this into a 5x5. Okay, so that's the kind of tube that we're going to have. Now this tube needs to extend 76 blocks above the ground level. So that's 1, 2, 3 is the first level, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it needs to go all the way up. This is the fiddly bit and a little bit difficult. The rest is dead easy. Okay, so there is my tube for the babies to fall down. Now you can see on the Y level in the top left hand corner there, I've got 86. Now if I drop down here, I'm at 10, which is exactly 76 apart. So that means that the beds can go on top of that level right there. So we're going to take some of this back away. So we're going to come out like this with sort of normal blocks. These can be any kind of blocks. It can be the glass, it can be anything you like. And then we're going to go like that. So we've got a little run of 5 going on there. Then we're going to go across and do something similar. Like that. And then we're going to do another run of 5 right here. Right, so this is what you should now have. A nice little platform to stand on, which is where we're going to put the beds. And then we're going to come in by 1 with a temporary block and place a single pane right there, which is right in the middle. Now next up is we're going to place in some blocks like this in a nice cross. Take that one back out and we're going to put some more in here. Now this one is actually going to be a dispenser because this is where we're going to be feeding the villagers from. Now the way I've got everything orientated is I've got this feeding to the front. And I'm going to have a feeding tube coming up here which is going to go into there. It doesn't really matter which way this is orientated. It can go in any direction, but just make sure that your beds and this are aligned in the same way. And I'm just considering it to be the way in which you're going to approach the villager breeder to actually get the villagers breeding. Now next up is you're going to want to get your 2 starter villagers in here, like so. And we're just going to put a lid on that so that they don't get away. I'm going to put a couple of extra blocks up just to make sure that we don't get any lightning strikes. I'm pretty sure they fixed that so the villagers don't get struck through things. But just in case, don't want to be getting these guys turned to witches. Right, so whilst we're up here, we might as well put in some redstone, which is going to handle the automatic feeding of these guys. Now, we're going to need to put a block there with some redstone on top of that there. And then we're going to get our comparator and place it here, going straight into a sticky piston facing up. Now, a slightly difficult one to place in here is going to be this facing that way. And then we're going to need a temporary block right there and an observer facing there. And then a solid block on the back of that one. Now what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that whenever something is put into that dispenser, it automatically gets fired out. Really simple, really small circuit, tidy, lovely. So now that we've got that in place, we're going to place in the beds. And we're going to place in exactly 11 beds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is 11 beds all there. Now you saw those guys get all sparkly. They're very happy. They've joined up with a bed. Now we need to put some food into this dispenser. So just to be sure, I'm just going to place in 1 stack at a time. Now these guys should be able to take all of the food actually. The first 2 have got nothing in them. So they've got 8 inventory slots each, so they should be eating for days. Now you see this guy, he's picking up everything that's going in there. He's going to eventually start throwing stuff to the other guy, and then they're going to start breeding, which is going to carry on until they've got 11 villagers. Okay, once they've got to 11 villagers, which is going to take a little bit of time, we're going to break the bottom bits of glass right here, and the one at the back there, and then we're going to place down 1 extra bed, which means that these guys think their village needs 1 more baby all the time, because the baby's going to keep dropping out and dropping out and dropping out. So we should see some of this breeding going on any second now. There we go, that was a baby. Because you heard it arrive and you saw it connect to a bed. And now it's time to be patient. Very, very patient. You're going to have to wait for these children, the little ones down here, to grow up. This should take sort of 10 to 20 minutes or so. I can't remember, I think it's 10 minutes. But it'll take a little while. They'll grow up. Then there might be some more breeding. Then there might be some more babies. Then you might want to let them grow up. Basically, I would AFK here for a little while. Give it an hour or so and you should be fine. Right, that is all of my villagers all grown up, and pretty much we're just going to test the theory. So to test the theory, break the beds. All but one. Yeah. So we're going to place in 1 sparkles, 2 sparkles, 3 sparkles, 4 sparkles, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Beautiful. So we've got 10 villagers in there. No more, no less. Now, we're going to go ahead and break these lower blocks, which have been pinning them in. Now, we're going to have to come around the far side here and break that one as well. Okay. Now, we're going to place in 1 extra bed. We should get hearts. Then we should get babies. And we should get them shooting out down to the bottom. Now, I know what's going to happen next. There's going to be hearts, there's going to be a baby, but it's not going to shoot out. So you hear that? Right. Give these guys a tickle on the toes. Just 1. See that? Spreads them out. Changes the hitboxes, which means that when the baby is born, it's going to get pushed in one direction or another. Now these hearts are going to continue until they've kind of ran out of food. Until they don't have enough food anymore to keep on breeding. And we'll just keep watching a few babies going down, and then we'll know. See that? There we go, another one. You know, basically they need to clear their inventory down to the minimum that they need to breed with. Which is, by the looks of it, about there. Oh no, here we go, we'll keep going. But this doesn't matter, this is just going to produce a surplus of babies to begin with. Now, whilst this is going on, we might as well go ahead and build up our feeding tube. So at the back here, we're going to place in a hopper going straight in like that. So that's going to be where the stuff's going to go in. The food, that is. And then we're going to build up a tube which is going to make sure that the food gets to where it needs to go. So the main thing is to make sure that this is waterproof so that you're not going to get water spilling all over the place. Now I think we've kind of done that like this, so that if water gets into there it's not going to make its way out. Because we're going to be using water to push items in. And then next I'd come all the way down to the bottom and decide where you'd like the feeding to start. Now these first few baby villagers are going to have potatoes in their inventory, which is going to be a bit of a shame. They're not going to be useful for that much, so you can kill off the first batch if you want. It's no big deal. Once we've got this going, you're going to be getting clean villagers which do not have anything in their inventory. Okay, so you need to decide where you want the feeding tube to go. Personally, I like it to go right here. And we're going to place in the soul sand right there. And then we can place in a water source right there. Now this is where the tube is going to have to be dragged all the way up to the top and then connected to the hopper. So what I did was I placed a button on there so that I had a little open hole to place the food in, so I can throw food into this tube without problem. It's just going to go flying up. Now what I found was 1 stack of potatoes or carrots, whatever it is that you're feeding them, is going to equate to around about 2 to 3 villagers. So you've got full control of how much it's going to breed. Okay, so we're just going to pull this all the way up. Okay, so that's the tube pulled all the way up here. Now what I'm just going to do real quick is fill in these sides so they all links up. Now the difficult bit is going to be getting the water in this tube. Personally, I quite like placing ice in and then going in underneath them and breaking the ice, but just make sure that you've got a good fortune pick on you, because if you do that with your bare hand it's going to take ages and it's going to be very, very sad. So let's just make sure that this works. Now you're going to get in a problem here because what's going to happen is the water's going to flow. Oh, it's actually flowing all the way. That's fine. Now, next thing is getting that all sorted out with some ice. I would put a lid on there because the items are going to come up at quite a velocity. And then you just need to make sure that this tube is all filled up with water sources. Right, so this is what I mean by using a pick. You can stand in here. If I use bare hand, very, very slow. If I use a decent-ish pick, it's going to get you there reasonably quick. If you've got efficiency on your pick, it's going to get you even faster. And the water source at the bottom with the soul sand is going to keep you oxygenated, so it's fine. So this is my personal favourite way of doing this. Right, and there we go. This first batch of villagers are kind of useless to me because they're all going to have weird stuff in their inventory. So I'm basically going to get that lot to die. And then we're going to start feeding the tube here. And once we start feeding the tube, we'll see the breeding again. And we'll just get the controlled level of villagers that we want when we want them. And it's going to be beautiful. Right, so let's go to that. Right, as you can see, we've got some of the adults over at the back here. They're just getting in the queue, waiting for the ones at the front to grow up. Once the ones at the front grow up, we're going to see them going up into this tube. But as you can see as well, none of the babies are making it into the tube, which is exactly what we want. Here we go, here comes an adult. They're just going to get bounced around a little bit. At the moment, there's a lot of collision going on down here, but once they escape, they're out and they go to wherever you want them to, which for me is a void. Right, that is the first batch cleared out of the system, so we're just going to have a quick look at how this goes. If you just throw in one full stack of potatoes or whatever your food source is, I'd advise sticking to one food source, just keeps it easy. So we've just seen the potatoes going flying up there. What we should see is, if we go up itself and actually have a quick look, we should see all of those potatoes getting dispensed, we should see some hearts, and we should see about 3 villagers being produced. There we go, it's been slowed down a little bit by the hopper speed. There we go, some hearts. And then some babies in a second, I think. And there we go, that was the first baby. Okay, so that one stack of potatoes gave us a batch of 5 babies. Ready to go wherever you want. Right, and there we go guys, that is the infinite villager breeder all ready. You've got the control on it so you can actually breed as many as you want, when you want, how you want, but at the same time it'll just breed up to whatever. If you throw in 10 stacks of stuff into there, you'll get about 50 villagers. So yeah, that's going to be cool. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and of course if you did, please do leave a like, and if you want to see some more, drop me a subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!